Hey guys, what's going on? This is Paranormal Outreach. I'm your host, Curtis Freeman. Today we have a, let's say, interesting interview. We are here to talk about something that a lot of people kind of either wish they saw this type of thing or they didn't wish they seen this type of thing. What is this type of thing? Well, it's Bigfoot, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it. Here we call it Bigfoot. Other places call it the Yeti, Sasquatch, the abominable snowman, the skunk ape. So we have a good guest on tonight who has been encountering and, let's just say, talking back and forth with these I don't know if you want to call them creatures. I don't know if you want to call them ancestors, but this young guy here who we're going to have on today has been talking to them. So without no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you my guest, John Littlefoot Martin. Here we go. Hello, how you doing, John? Can you hear me? There we go. How's it going?
Hey, I really appreciate you having me on, man. Really do.
Good. It's an honor, man. I know I always love to bring somebody on that can, talk about their encounters and different things they've seen and witnessed, So,
Yes.
If you want to introduce yourself and let everybody know where you're from and, what you do, it's all you.
All right. Well, my name's just really Jonathan Martin. I threw the Littlefoot in there because people are going to be wanting to get in touch with me, and it's hard to get in touch with just Jonathan Martin on social media. So there's going to have a million Jonathan Martins pop up. But anyways, I'm 43 years old. I'm originally from Mississippi. I was born in Ellisville, grew up in Gulfport and Jackson, Mississippi, and went to school down there and had kind of a rough childhood down there living in the city. I went to public schools. I didn't go to private school. But I enjoyed it and actually learned a lot from the experience. I ended up moving up here in the mountains when I was 12, and it's kind of a culture shock. And the school I went to down there, I was more or less the minority, and moving up here, obviously it was obviously the majority up here. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And it was different though, because I never got a chance to be racist because I had problems with everybody, and I was one of those people that I always spoke my mind, still do, and I'm sure there's people today that still would punch me in the face if they could without going to jail for it, but or getting hit back. But that's just you got to kind of have that attitude in life when you grow up in the city. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And even in the country now, there's what's funny is I ended up bonding with a lot of other kids that moved from the city. My father's a Methodist minister, and he would take in former drug addicts or gang members or whatever sometimes, and try to help rehabilitate them. And that would in a way you could say that came at my expense, but actually it really taught me a lot about life and helped me develop empathy for other people, and realize that not everybody comes from the same background that I do, that even if I did have kind of a rough upbringing, I still had good parents. Not everybody has that.
Right.
And that's been detrimental to my life. And I've been on the other side of the interview table with a detective in not so favorable conditions. And when I was a teenager, up until I was about 20, I did some things that weren't good. But anyway, all my life, off and on, I've been having experiences with the spirit world. One of my first memories of seeing a spirit was at a place that we call Camp Meeting down in Mississippi that my parents would take us to every year. And I remember seeing these two white eyes staring back at me when I woke up at like 5 or 6 in the morning, and I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. And they were, in these cabins, you just had walls. You had, big plywood walls. You didn't have any, you know, it didn't run all the way up to the ceiling or anything like that. We only stayed there in the summer, so it wasn't any use in trying to heat the place.
Yeah.
But it was just A-frame cabins, and you just have walls for privacy, and that's pretty much it. And I saw these two white eyes staring back at me.
Well, before we get into that,
Yes, sir.
How was it when you first, like, what did you think about when you first heard about Bigfoot? What was your
On my bucket list, just on my bucket list, a grain of salt in the bucket. Yeah, that's, I mean, it was I've always been 50-50 because I've experienced so many crazy things. So who am I to sit here and judge someone else's experience?
Right.
So when I hear things like that, unless it's just outlandish, I can tell someone's mentally ill and they're saying things that are just really, you know, beyond. You know, I just take it with a grain of salt and say, hey man, it might be possible. And that I actually had that thought. I actually said a prayer that night. That I had my first major encounter. I had encounters before I knew what I was encountering. Does that make sense? And so I'll just go ahead and tell this story. How about that? We'll just start with the Bigfoot story. I was just trying to lead up that the mediumship helps. You know, the ability to be able to talk to spirits and things like that. That's why I wanted to start there. Is that it actually helps with this. Okay.
What we're gonna do then is I'm gonna give you the floor.
Yes, sir.
And you go ahead and you can start basically from the beginning.
Okay.
And just lead all the way to where you are now. And if I have any questions, I'll pop in and ask certain questions. And you have sent over some footage of you communicating back and forth with these.
Yeah, audio, yes.
With the Bigfoots. Okay, so we'll throw that in there as well.
Okay.
But for now, I'll give you the floor.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyway, so in my first situation, well, it goes back to around June 2020. I was at a place that I'd been coming to already for 3 years. It was a paranormal hot spot. We had you know, experiences with spirits or ghosts, whatever you want to call them. We had a lot of UFO experiences in this place, and it's been well known for years. And when I say UFOs, I use that term loosely because it's another term for what we saw were ghost lights, because they were these lights that would be smaller, closer to the ground or whatnot, orbs, but they would be larger in size than, you know, just a little, I don't know, quarter size orbs or whatnot. So anyhow, these were regular occurrences there, and this is something actually I've been living with in my own home for quite a while now, so except for the UFOs, but just something that, you know, I was used to, and I would actually, it was one of those situations where I go out to seek the paranormal a lot of times, but I would end up just being happy with the peace that I found of being out there in the woods alone. And I've sat out there for hours in the dark. People thought I was crazy. I have a flashlight, but I never use it unless I absolutely have to. Usually that's just to look for something, you know, that I lost or whatever, look for a recorder or something like that, put any batteries in the recorder. But anyway, we'll just go back to June. Well, there were several different instances of where I'd be talking to someone I just met there, and a rock would be thrown into the middle of the parking lot, and we couldn't say exactly from where. And just to be clear, everything I'm sharing is just my experience, just my opinion, just my point of view, just the way I observe things and participated at times. We'd have rock 3 different times. I was talking to 3 completely different people in the parking lot, all that I'd met at the parking lot, come there for the same reasons. This is a look off over Mountain Valley. I can't give specific details. And each time little rocks would be thrown our way. And I just kind of, you know, we'd question it. We'd talk about it. I remember one time we finished a conversation and then brought it up after the conversation. Said, did you notice that it seemed like a rock was being thrown at us? Rock or 2. And very small rocks, nothing vicious or anything like that, almost as if something's trying to get our attention. And didn't pay it any mind. Over the course of the 3 years that I've been hanging out there, I had heard, I'd say 7 to 10 trees pushed over. And every time I heard them, there would be no wind or anything like that. And I'm a horticulturist. I forgot to explain that. I'm a horticulturist. I have a 1-year diploma in horticulture, and I stopped 4 classes short of a 2-year degree, which I took all the horticulture classes, and just the other classes were just prerequisites. because I had to start my own business and start working because I needed money. But anyway, I've been working. That was back in 2005 when I started, and I was working the whole time, and I finished in 2008 or finished best I could, and then started my own business. So I've been working with plants and trees, not only in landscapes, but I've actually helped cleared off land and burn wood and things like that on mountainsides and so on. So I've been handling wood for quite some time now, being 43 years old. I've actually been doing this kind of work since I was about 15 or 16. But anywho, so I'm up there and I'm hearing trees falling, and I'm like, well, this is very strange. I can't really explain why these trees are falling. And a couple of times I heard like a boulder come crashing down or something like that, just something crashing through the woods. And it never lasted a long time, and I never felt overly threatened by it. When the trees would be pushed over, they'd be very, very large trees. You could tell by the sound because they echo the entire valley. They'd make me jump, and my adrenaline would be pumping for at least 30 minutes afterward. Just because I know exactly that something's not right. I never, ever, ever really said to myself, Bigfoot. And just to be clear, I had several people tell me, there's a Bigfoot here. There's a Bigfoot here. There's a Bigfoot here. I just always blew it off. And it was just like, well, I've never seen one. I've never heard one. So I don't know. I'm not having that experience that they're having. But anyway, these little things kind of went on. There was one night when I was up there, and some bear hunters had just passed by on the highway. This is a scenic highway. And some bear hunters had just passed by on the highway, and they drove on down the road. And I remember hearing their dogs barking and hearing their radio playing. And then I thought I kept hearing it after they had gotten out of the range of what should have been my range of sound. I'm deaf in my right ear, but I hear very well in my left ear. And within my range of sound, I heard what started sounding like mumbling and talking. And I could tell that it was male and female, but it did not sound human. And it was not in a human language. And that was the first night that really shocked me, that something was going on, that it felt like, well, this is more than a ghost, is the only way I could put it. So it went on I remember I listened to it for 20 seconds, I think. And then I stopped and I said, I'm listening, keep talking. And I was scared to death. I don't know how in the world I got enough energy up to do that. And as soon as I said that, it stopped. It's like, oh, he can hear us, And it almost sounded like they were talking in another room. Okay. Is there something you want to say before I continue?
So you said it sounded like they was talking what did it sound like? Did it sound like like a lot? Okay. So what I mean is, when they said, people say when Bigfoot talks to another Bigfoot,
this did not sound like that samurai chatter that you hear about.
There you go, the samurai chatter. No,
I'm hearing the samurai chatter now, and that's the first time I've heard it, is closer to home. But this did not sound like samurai chatter. This was more flowing. I would imitate it, but I'm on public social media, so I don't want to sound like an idiot. But I will imitate the samurai chatter I've heard when I get to that point. Okay. However, though, this was just very flowing sounding. I can't say, I still to this day can't say it was a Bigfoot or anything. I don't know what it was. We have other legends here. We have other cryptids here. Really? And they're very well known. And I'm not really supposed to talk about some of them, or at least one of them. But we do have like the devil monkey here, and some other stuff. I don't know that any of that's what it was. And I never had a negative or really frightening experience at this place. In all the years I've been there, some powerful, interesting experiences. Sorry.
I have heard of the devil monkey. I did some research on that, but
I can hook you up with a friend and his wife that had seen one right in the middle of the road. It basically looks like a 6-foot baboon with black eyes and white hair is what they had drawn. But anyways, yeah, that was that's another story.
That would be definitely an interesting story to get on the show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I haven't seen anything like that. I've had an experience with another cryptid. I had one run through my home, and I guess as much as I can say about these in respect to the native people here, they are much like the little people of Ireland, and so on. And I'll just leave it there. Okay. And little people around the world, around those kind of stories, and I'm just going to leave it there. That's all I can say. Okay. But anyway, beyond that, I don't know what I heard talking that night. Actually, one night, a few nights later, I was there and I heard a large branch snap, and realized that this 27-foot branch had snapped off a tree, and fallen. There was no wind, and it snapped from about 35 feet up, and I never saw what did it, and I just had to assume that it did it on its own. But I looked up from where it came from, and it didn't look like it was that well rotted out to be falling on its own, although it was large enough. And there's a story to that branch anyway. I'll save that part for later. But moving on to the actual major encounter was August 2nd, 2020. I got there at about 9:40 p.m. to do my usual, UFO light watching. Before I left, I actually decided to say a prayer to a deceased friend who was a psychic medium, and who was always very much into astronomy and astrology and so on. And I literally just asked her to help me see the lights. And I also heard a noise behind me at the time. And as soon as I heard the noise behind me, I then threw in there, and hey, if you can throw in a Bigfoot, that'd be great. And I ended up getting more than I'd bargained for, and a lot more than I'd prayed for. Within 20 minutes, this creature just started going crazy on the embankment. I was facing west, looking for the lights. I had to turn my car around and face east and face the embankment, which I've never done in my life, in order to protect myself, I guess. I felt threatened. This creature was snapping branches, breaking trees, just doing all kind of crazy stuff all over this embankment. So I'm standing in a parking lot. The look-off's behind me, facing west, and the parking lot runs about roughly 70 to 80 yards to the forest, across the road into the forest. And in the forest, it's a steep embankment and runs straight up a ridge. And it's very steep. And something's thrashing about and going crazy. And I'm yelling at it, because usually I can, if there's a wild animal around, I'm a singer, I can holler, I can project my voice, I can yell and do whatever. And it makes stuff like that go away for the most part, because they don't want to find out what's making that noise. And so I was yelling at this thing. I actually honked my horn. I'm at this point, I'm standing in my driver's side door with it open. I've got my keys in my right hand, and I've got a police flashlight in my left hand, one of those big mag lights. And, I'm watching for it, and I'm just ready to jump in the car and haul ass out of there, basically. And anyways, it keeps bluff charging. It never came out of the trees. And so my subconscious is always going, and I'm a hypervigilant type of person. And so something in me was saying, this is different, and there may not be a reason to be afraid here. Although my body was screaming, leave, 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 leave. Something in me was just saying, there's something going on here. You need to see, you need to figure this out. And so what I did after 45 minutes of, trying to get this thing to leave, and it was just, I was honking my horn, I was doing everything, flashing my lights. It wasn't budging. After 45 minutes, I began to sing to it. I sang 3 songs. It got quiet while I was singing those 3 songs. That was probably 7 to 10 minutes. And then it started up again. At that point, I began to preach to it, because I didn't know what else to do. So I literally said to it, hey, I'm not your enemy, I'm your friend. I'm yelling, by the way. This is a lot more intense than I'm, making it here in the storytelling. But I said, hey, I'm not your enemy, I'm your friend. I don't have any weapons. I'm not here to hurt you. Please don't run me off my favorite place. Because at this point, I'm ready to leave. I'm terrified. And it literally stopped. It stopped, and it was quiet for, I'd say, maybe 2 to 5 minutes. And then I heard 2 tree knocks. And when I heard those 2 tree knocks, something in my head snapped and said, "Oh my God, that's a Bigfoot."
With the tree knocks, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. People say that some Bigfoot uses a large stick to hit another tree to make it sound like a tree knock. Some people say that the Bigfoot would smack the tree with his hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's multiple. No, if I were, say, 500 pounds and did that, you'd be able to hear that a long way away.
Really?
You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
There's things there that I'm hearing, even in their dialect, that's clicking and popping, so that all the knocks we're hearing may not be knocks. And there's another field expert that I've been in touch with in the eastern part of North Carolina who's agreed. He actually does a lot of digital analysis, and he looks at things, and he's done this so much that he can look at a 6-hour audio track and pull it all up on one screen and say, well, there's all your knocks. And said, well, that's a dog barking, that's the wind blowing, that's an airplane flying over, that's the rain. He can look at the frequencies on there. He knows what everything is.
Right.
But he's the one, he and I have been talking, and he's saying he doesn't believe these are all knocks. He thinks some of these are vocal clicks, something like
Wow.
that. Yeah. So if I go like that and I'm 500 to 600 pounds or whatever, even 300, pounds, and I have a larger diaphragm maybe that's more adapted to that kind of communication. Because there's actually, I shared an article not too long ago on Facebook about how primates' voice boxes are evolving at a more rapid rate than humans. This was an actual scientific, article. But anyways, there may be no end. When I hear them talking a lot of times, I'm kind of getting off track here, but when I hear them talking a lot of times, you hear that samurai chatter, and then you'll hear some tones way up here and you'll hear some tones go way down here.
Right. And they think the ones that are way up here are the females. And
Well,
the one
both.
is the male.
Let me get to that, and I'll tell you. But you're right. You're right on track. Yes. And there's whoops included in there too, so I have to kind of
the whoop.
get everything. Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, so I had this experience. I stayed that night. Actually, I didn't get run off. It was very intense for me, but I stood my ground is what I did.
Okay.
And I actually later got home, or it was a few days later or something. I was looking up Bigfoot medicine because I was trying to figure out if there's a spiritual connection here, because I'm a very spiritual person. And I remember reading in there, Bigfoot teaches you to stand your ground. And as soon as I read that, I was like, man, that's powerful. That's hitting the nail on the head. There is more to this. There's a reason why things happen sometimes. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes there is, if not all the time, anyways, what I did is I told my friends, but I didn't really say Bigfoot. I just said, I don't know what it was. And I wasn't really talking about it on social media at this point or anything like that. And this was just back in August 2nd, 2020. So what I did is I approached this the most intelligent way a layperson could. I called the local park service, and asked for a wildlife specialist. And they actually had one call me back a few days later. And I talked to him, and I was very clear and succinct and calm, just like I'm talking to you, explaining what happened. And we went down the list of animals together. And I'm pretty wise to the animals around here. I've been hiking around here for years, working in the woods. I know all the basic animals and so on. And we're talking about elk. Pardon me, sir. Talking about elk. We were talking about boar, talking about bear, talking about deer. Even cougar is a possibility, although they won't admit that they're around here. But we got through talking, and his last words to me his next to last sentence to me was, well, I've gotten panther reports before, but I've never gotten a Bigfoot report before. And I said, I never said it was a Bigfoot. You did. And he kind of clammed up. Yeah, he kind of clammed up after that. That's a true story. That's what got to me. Because I was trying to be careful with this, and now I'm a lot more open about it because it's just, I'm experiencing it every night at this point. But we just talked, and he said, well, if you need to get back in contact with me, you know how to find me. And I haven't tried to contact him again. I actually don't have his number, but I may try to contact him again and tell him what's going on. I'm not sure.
Well, just by him doing that, I mean, he basically answered my question, because if you never told him that it was Bigfoot and you're talking, he comes out and says it was a Bigfoot, and you never said nothing about that.
Yeah.
What does that make you think? You know what I mean? Somebody obviously said something to him before about it.
Exactly. It's kind of like when you're being straight up with somebody and they accuse you of lying, you kind of wonder, what are they thinking? What kind of evil you got on your mind? I'm being honest. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. So I went back. It might have been before I had that encounter. I started noticing strange things in the forest, and there was a strange feeling like we were being watched. And it's not just me. It was I and some friends that were meeting up there. And I think that might have been actually back before August 2nd. I'm not sure. But once I had that encounter, I couldn't hardly shut up about it to my friends, especially after I talked to the wildlife specialist. I was just blown away.
Yeah.
And it was about, I kept going back. Actually, the next night that I went back, I actually heard a panther up there. And I dismissed it as a panther. I was like, that can't be a panther. And it sounded like a woman getting murdered. And
Okay.
I later looked up a mountain lion or a panther on YouTube or something. I was like, oh my God, that was a panther. And it couldn't have been more than 100 yards away from me. So it just goes to show, there may be a few creatures out there that, not everybody's aware of. But
Right.
I kept going back, and I kept trying to, what I would do every night is I would go and I would keep trying to make communication. I had a couple of digital voice recorders because I was a singer songwriter and had already, used that to do multiples to record my songs, the first draft or whatever you want to call it. And the original recordings. And so I started taking that out with me. And I guess it took 2 weeks before I started getting communication back after the experience, but I wasn't getting run off. So I figured, well, they don't hate me, I would hear some noises here and there, but not a whole lot. And then about 2 weeks after I started getting that communication, I started making recordings. I can't remember exactly how. I found I looked up a couple of different cryptid research teams on Facebook, and I ended up connecting with a fellow that actually had been on Finding Bigfoot season 2. I don't want to go too far into that because I want to keep his privacy, but he actually had been someone that had started traveling around and talking about his experience and helping other people with theirs. And he and I talked for 2 hours that night. And he said, that sounds like a classic Bigfoot encounter. And he put me in touch with his sound tech guy, who was actually a musician that plays at the Grand Ole Opry sometimes. He's a fiddle player. But the sound tech guy, I sent him the recordings, and he looked over them and he validated each one. He said, all your knocks are at roughly the same tone, which means it could be vocal, because it'd be almost impossible to hit a tree at the same tone every time unless you're just staying in the same place and hitting at the same place, which is possible, I guess. But everything he heard was enough to say, it seems like this is all legitimate. I don't have a reason to think you're a fake. And we've actually been in touch since, and he's trying to figure out a good time to come out and stay a weekend or something to see what's going on out here.
Yeah.
He's actually he has 195 of my new recordings. I ended up getting a better recorder, a Tascam, which is what you hear recorded on there. And so it's much more clear, and you can hear a lot more going on throughout the recording. So, but I started doing that, and anyways, it eventually led. It went from one family. They let me know they were there. I ended up at a second place when I was locked out of that place due to the weather conditions. And it was not a place I was looking for Bigfoot. And I don't know if I sent you that, also that YouTube, but there was 2 of them. The second one would have been that one. And it shows literally how I went there looking for spirit voices. I was going to do a little regular paranormal investigating because I was bored. And within 9 minutes, I got the loudest power knock I've ever heard in my life or ever gotten on recorder. And you can hear me ignoring it the whole time. I left within, hang on, we got a grandfather clock here. Sorry about that. Just have to have it,
Oh, yeah. So one of the things here I want to show real quick is you sent me a picture. And
that was
this picture,
yesterday.
Huh?
That was taken just yesterday.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to bring this to the table. This is a picture.
That's my foot. That's a size 10.5, 11 shoe right there next to, I don't know what.
Would you call this a Bigfoot print?
This is what I'm going to, well, let's call this circumstantial evidence. How about that?
Circumstantial evidence.
Okay. That'd be all right. I think it could be a Bigfoot print. I'm already recording knocks and whoops and all kinds of noises and I'm talking to them close up without seeing them. This is just in the dark, from behind bushes and so on. But I just found this yesterday and I just thought it was very interesting. I actually took several pictures. I just sent you this one, but it's very deep and detailed. I had to dig the leaves out of it so you could see it. But I haven't found anything else like that around the home. And the reason there would be only one print is because there was a rock behind it, and then there was a base of a pushed over tree or fallen tree, either one, right in front of it. So whatever it was could have easily stepped off the rock, stepped down with its left foot, which this is what I think it is possibly, and then stepped back up onto the tree base with its right foot. And the tree base is actually the gifting tree. It's where I leave them apples and so on. But this is just the most discernible type print I've ever found. And as a horticulturist, there's a break in the middle. I probably should have sent you a better picture, but I don't know if you could tell from there, but there's a break in the middle.
Like running, right here, right?
Yes, right here, running sideways across it. And that break could be, I'm not good with these words. Is it the metacarpal break or something like that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It's a break that researchers look for. I'll say that much, that humans don't have. Whereas humans are flat-footed, the Sasquatch are arched right there, highly arched,
So what this looks like to me, if let's just say you say it was circumstantial evidence.
Yes, sir.
Well, let's just say if it was a Bigfoot print, this is your shoe, this is your foot.
Yes, sir.
What size foot are you? What size shoe?
Shaq, maybe, I don't know. That's Shaq size, man. I don't think Shaq's foot's that big, is it?
No, I mean Shaq, I believe, is like what, 17?
Is that all? Oh, that's probably a 19 is what I'm thinking, or 20. It's wide too, man. That'd be like a 20 wide or 19 wide. You tell me.
What size?
I'm 11.
What
10
size?
10 and a half, 11.
So you're 10 and a half.
Yes, sir.
You could put both of your feet.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah.
So it has to be.
It's over 7 feet, I'd say, at least.
Yeah, and probably at least 12 inches wide.
Here's the other thing, and you don't have these pictures, but I have pictures of tree structures, and these are some of the most intricate tree structures I've ever seen. There's a lot of weaving going on. And all of the tree structures that they're making, not all of them, but a good portion of them, the really intricate stuff and detailed stuff, which are basically, they look like capital letters A, capital letter D, capital letter X or small x, which is very well known, and then a capital letter Y. Okay. And that's the way they put these formations in. And they will, with the A's, they will actually weave it in. Let's say it's with a hemlock, which has, little skinny stems with a little bit of brush on the end of it. And they will weave it inside with another stick and weave it together with the little bitty sticklets that are coming off the top of a larger stick. And everything ends up coming to a point right here when I'm looking at it. So everything all the structures I'm seeing are coming to a point right here. And this is all theory. I'm presenting this all as theory. For me, this is a behavioral science more than anything. It's not so much about the physical science. It's more about the behavioral science. So I'm thinking if I'm working up here comfortably, I must be over 7 feet tall. In other words, wherever these structures are stopping right here at about my height, which is I'm 5'10", and so they're at 5'10" to 6 foot. So whatever it is comfortable. 5'10", 6 foot is going to be about right here on it, because it's going to be comfortable finishing that up right there is what I'm assuming, theorizing. So I would put it, I'd say up to 18 inches taller than the tops of those structures, possibly, if that seems like a good estimate, But anyway, so is there a question you want to ask before I keep going?
Yeah, like they say that the Bigfoot would bend the tree.
Yeah, I've seen we have the arcs. I've taken several pictures of those. Yes, a picture. There should be a picture in the video that I sent you of it looks like maybe I don't know, a 9 to 12 foot sapling. It's kind of hard to remember. And it's bent over and there's a branch laid over the top of it. So unless that branch blew from way up here and hit it 9 to 12 feet high and then brought it down, and it's just a little branch. It's not that big, a rotten branch that's not connected to that tree at all. It's from another tree. And it's got that arced over. That would be more amazing to believe than a Sasquatch did it. Some of the things that people are willing to believe because they won't believe in Sasquatch are hilarious to me. I
mean, I think to be able to bend a tree like that, is you have to have abnormal strength.
Yeah. Well, these
Like,
are mostly saplings. I could bend some of these trees that I've seen bent over for sure. But I've seen, if you look in the pictures that I sent you, there's a couple of trees in there that are, I'd say, 4x4 at center,
mhm.
um, at the base of the trunk, if not a little wider, and they're snapped right there, and they're fresh. I mean, they're not, they're within the past year. They're not rotted out. There's no sign of disease. As a horticulturist, I'd be able to spot these things. They're just snapped, pushed over. And
So
I'm
I'm gonna,
guessing those guys are probably 10 foot taller. They're, I don't know.
I
That's
mean, yeah, I mean,
that's frightening.
unbelievably tall.
Yes, and that's
I'm
the
gonna,
ones that are on the video I sent you. The first
yeah, I
video.
was looking at that.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna pull up a picture here.
Okay.
Somebody sent me this picture probably like 2 weeks ago and asked me what I thought about it. So I'm gonna turn around and ask you what you think about it.
Sure. Sure.
So here it is. What do you
Yeah.
think about that?
That looks very interesting. I see a possible X, capital X, in there. That would be what they would consider boundary markers for other Sasquatches. Those, some people think it's for people, but it's actually for other Sasquatches. I don't think they expect people to know what they are. What I'm finding is interesting is that it's this pattern of X's is the most common, and then the Y's, the capital D's, the capital Y's, and the capital A's. What are all those things? What's in all those things? Arrows. What do you see in this X? There's 4 arrows that meet in the center.
Correct.
So that's almost like saying you can't go any further. Like stop.
Yeah.
Right here. You can't go past this point. And so when you see an A or a capital A or a Y, capital Y, or a D, then that would be an arrow pointing in another direction. Obviously the sky, the ground, or east, west, north, south, what have you. But these are what I call stopping points. They're basically telling other Sasquatches, stay out. This area is already occupied.
I was about to.
Let me be clear. I'm sorry. I don't just call them that. That's been commonly known. I'm not trying to take credit for any of this stuff. So that's been commonly known throughout the Sasquatch community, though. Yeah, as boundary markers is what those are. And it does look like something legitimate. I would love to see more pictures before I'd say, yes, you have a Sasquatch. And of course, if people wanted to work really hard, I'd like to see someone standing next to that so I can see exactly how big it is.
Yep.
If people want to work really hard to do something like that, they probably could fake something like that, but some of those logs, I don't know, if they're as big as they look, then I'm not going to sit here, and I'm not at all saying that they fake that picture. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, and generally speaking, to me, that looks like a legitimate photograph, but I'm just looking at a picture, and
the thing is too, that's the problem, that people will come up with evidence and they will try to bring it to the world. Just, hey, this is what I found here, over here, and over here. Then you have people that come out and they make these shoes that look like big feet, and then they go stomping around, the shores of where there's water, and then there's Bigfoot tracks leading a quarter mile down the river, knowing well it's fake. And then when they come to find out and they find that it's fake, then you're debunking basically that Bigfoot was real. They're trying to say it's fake. That's where you get a lot of skepticism.
Yes. Well, but people who research enough know how to look for the details. There are details that I would look for, and if I didn't see those details, then I would kind of start to question things. And for me, being a medium, I get a feeling about things a lot of times right off the bat, as long as I'm tuned in to what I'm, focused on or whatever.
Yeah.
And if I get a fake feeling about a picture or something like that, then, and that, because I used to debunk a lot of paranormal pictures that didn't have anything to do with Sasquatch and another paranormal group. Just because I've taken a lot of pictures, and I know what the sun does to photography. I know what the moon does to photography. I know what stars can do to photography. It's never ending what all the tricks the camera can play on a picture, and then does play on the mind.
Right.
But and it's the same thing with some of these pictures. There's at this point, I'll have an experience in an area, and then I go look for the tree structures. And then I find them. Okay, so it's never a case of me going and looking for tree structures and then I have an experience in the area. That doesn't happen. If I'm not having an experience there, then unless I want to hike there for some other reason, then I'm not wasting my time there.
Have you ever been run out of the woods by what you think is a Bigfoot
No,
territory?
that one experience, the first major encounter I had is the only encounter I've had that was anything like that. And this is going to sound crazy, and that's okay. We're talking about Bigfoot anyway. The creature that I had that encounter with, and which I believe I had that encounter with, we believe there's 4 family members up there. That particular one is the one that I believe is in the video talking back and forth with me. And it's hard to explain. I think other people that work with primates will say this, but at the same time, they're going to want to separate themselves from me because I'm talking about Sasquatch.
Yeah.
But I've read about how Diane Fossey, who was a major researcher of gorillas, I think the movie Gorillas in the Mist with Sigourney Weaver was based on her.
Oh yeah.
In 1986. And then Jane Goodall, who actually I heard in one interview said that she does believe in Bigfoot just based on Native American stories, and saying that they're all describing the same thing from different areas of the country. She talked about they talk about the bonds they build with these chimps and these gorillas they work with. Diane Fossey had a friendship, with Digit. Digit was he was named Digit because he was missing one of his fingers or toes, I believe, and he was a gorilla, and he was kind of ostracized from the group because he was different from the gorillas, and so Diane, they developed a bond together. And one of her friends describing her often talked about how she felt more comfortable in her relationships with primates than she did with humans. And I'm starting to find that a lot of times. If we're not of a like mind, if you don't love these creatures, it's hard for me to associate. It just is. I've something changed in me since my encounter, and it keeps changing because I'm experiencing it every night.
What do you feel changing?
My heart. My heart, and then my mind follows. Your heart changes, your mind follows. I had I'm not pushing this on anybody at all. I'm actually a Christian pagan. So I was born and raised a Christian in a Methodist, preacher's family. And then I found paganism. I still follow Christ's words, actually. And people say, well, I don't know how you mix all that, but that's not what we're here to talk about anyway. But anyways, I can't remember exactly where I was going with that. But
well, you was talking about I asked you what did you feel about it, and you were saying that your mind and your heart.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. When I had the Christian salvation experience, thank you, I appreciate that. I was saved on Halloween night, 1994, and I was actually chased by an ex-best friend with a large Bowie knife. And that when I've never had I don't get easygoing experiences, but the way that changed my heart and changed my life. Yeah. And then when I found paganism, the way that changed my heart and changed my life. And now the Sasquatch is more physical. It's almost like the spirit, all of this spirit energy manifesting into the physical realm. For me, that's how it feels. I know that sounds crazy, and I know some people won't understand that. But I almost feel like I've been being prepared for this. And the goal in mind that I have here, if I have the Sasquatch's permission, is to possibly get it classified and or protected somehow, regardless, because they've already working on one guy's already trying to work on passing a law in Oklahoma, if they haven't done it yet or whatever, about to hunt them. And that's just ridiculous, and I don't care under what any circumstances.
Isn't it a crime to shoot them?
And not in the United States. It's only in 2 counties in Washington state, I believe, 1 or 2 counties in Washington state. And there may be other little laws on the books related to that I'm not sure of. But it's not. We have no DNA of it, so we can't prove that it's part human. If it is,
I was going to say that. Like, how can you put a man in jail, or how can you punish a man for shooting something that's not really proven to exist?
Well, what's going to happen is somebody's going to go out there and end up shooting somebody else. Is what's going to happen.
Right.
You end up shooting Bigfoot hunters. When I say Bigfoot hunters, I want to let me separate that. There's those will be the Bigfoot hunters. Then there are the squatchers. They're the people that just want to go out and hunt Bigfoot with cameras and gear and stuff like that, but not guns.
Yeah, finding Bigfoot.
Yeah, and and those people are possibly going to end up getting shot at times if we're not careful, because a lot of my work is standing out in the dark by myself.
Yeah.
And sometimes it requires me walking up in the woods and so on. Fortunately, 3 of the families I'm talking to are all on federally protected land, so I don't have to worry about being hunted out there. But I just think this is stupid in so many ways, especially when you could just push Bigfoot as a positive tourism attraction. Bigfoot alive.
Yeah.
Come out here and hike our lands, and I think they're trying to push for too much money at once. And in doing so, they're going to alienate a lot of people and upset a lot of people in the process too. They're not thinking about this. Oklahoma, I don't want to say they, I'm sorry. The representative who brought this up just doesn't seem to be thinking this through quite well enough. But they may have other plans in mind or whatever, but the thought of being allowed to go and shoot a Bigfoot is the same as, to me, as going out and killing a human. I've never been harmed by a Bigfoot. I've never seen a Bigfoot harm anyone. I've had them run off other people around me and my friends, or my friends and I, but they never harmed anyone. They'll scare people off. They'll bluff. They'll do all kinds of stuff like that sometimes if they want you to leave. But I'm not saying they're not capable of it, and certainly accidental it's possible. But when they communicate with me, a lot of times they're constantly throwing stuff at me, as in the video.
Yeah.
The first video, and that's just normal and I call that one Daryl, because he's all Daryl. He's just all Bigfoot. And ever since that Progressive commercial, I think that name stuck.
I mean, I don't know how you categorize it. What category would you put a Bigfoot in? They say they would put in a cryptid.
Cryptid just means it's unclassified. So cryptid could be any kind of animal. I mean, that could be a snake that's not known.
Right.
It's anything. So for me personally, I don't know if I mentioned it, I'm taking primatology and conservation right now.
Okay.
To be clear, it's a 30-hour course. It's very involved. It's given by one of the world's leading primatologists out of what do you call it? A conservation, and I believe in Uruguay. It's Uruguay or Paraguay. I'll have to look that back up. But anyways, it's just a 30-hour course. It will not make me a primatologist. So I'm not trying to claim that. And I have to be very clear about that, so no one gets confused with me saying that. It'll just give me a better education in primatology. It's very deep and involved. And it's, a 10-minute, what do you call it, conference or whatever, a 10-minute lecture is 2 to 3 hours worth of writing notes and, going back and answering questions and so on, and reading a lot. But anyway, so I'm taking that to try to understand better. And coming from that point of view, there's other things that I'm seeing here. There's definitely, which people already know, there's definitely evidence of possibility of Pithecanthropus, which would be the now extinct great ape. That would have been the largest ape. I think he was believed to be 8 to 10 feet tall, maybe even larger. But all that was found with Gigantopithecus was a jawbone, which is very interesting. So we assume that he has the feet like gorillas have, which are kind of like hands. But we're making that assumption based on a jawbone. That's all that's been found. So I don't know if he might have had 5 toes like humans, but I have to go with what science has found at this point and what they've conceded with at this point. But anyways, we're typically with at this point. Also, I'm seeing evidence, especially in some of the calls of orangutan, and the fact that orangutans bond with humans more easily, from what I've seen from all the videos I've been watching and everything else. And so they just seem to be friendlier in general. Not that they won't stay on their ground at times, but they're just more peaceful creatures. And so I see this kind of ability to bond with humans in Sasquatch as well. They're not coming up to us and hanging on us, obviously, like orangutans do, but some humans. But there's a ability to bond there, like an orangutan. And then I'm hearing in their calls, I'm hearing some of the tones that are similar to orangutan. A lot of times I can compare them to that. So there's evidence of a few different things going on here, and then possibly you got to throw in the possibility of human DNA, which we do share. I was at 97, 96, something like that. I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a while. Percent DNA with apes and gorillas and so on, and chimps and all. So I'm looking at this. I'm approaching this theoretically as possibly Gigantopithecus human and maybe some orangutan mixed in there. I don't know. And again, it's totally theory. That means I'm completely crazy to someone, who's a primatologist or scientist or something like that, and that's okay. But I'm just dealing with I'm already approaching this as behavioral science while other people are still trying to prove it exists. I'm moving past that and trying to see its patterns, see how it reacts to things. And if you're recording something, I sound kind of dumb on those videos. I'm just playing. It sounds like I'm playing and being goofy, and I am. I want to keep it lighthearted, and they like to play. They're friendly, that way. And so if I keep it lighthearted, they keep it lighthearted. If I start getting all freaked out and scared, then they might start getting all freaked out and scared and start reacting that way. But I like to play and I like to keep it lighthearted. And then I take every audio back just as I did on the video, and I timestamp it. I go back through and I listen to some of those sounds 5 to 10 times, every sound, and I'll go back and make sure that I'm hearing what I'm hearing, and I timestamp it and say what I think it is at that point. When you do that, if you say tag on a recorder and then you go back and timestamp it, you're validating it 3 times. Because you heard it, you're tagging it, and then you're writing it down later. Actually, and going back over and listening to it and validating it again. So, and that's before it even gets to another witness, right, most of the time. So that it's already been validated 3 times. And then the best thing you can do too is have a witness with you on a recording, which I'm going to be posting one of those soon. And so that when you hear the reaction, you hear the noises and stuff, and we react at the same time, then you realize, something's going on there, But anyway,
what do you feel about proving Bigfoot? Do you feel that we should? I know we're against killing, okay, but do you think that we should capture it and contain it, or try to find
no.
one that's dead? Or
why don't we do more behavioral studies and see if we can build a bond, and maybe somehow we can get a body without having to harm anything or anyone? Maybe a hair sample, maybe a stool sample. Maybe we can do whatever we have to do to keep from having to go that far. Would you do that to?
But don't we have all that, right?
What's that?
Don't we have the stool sample, hair follicles? Some even said that they had blood. Did you ever see where they had a show on TV where these people lived in a cabin, and the cabin was always unoccupied. They go up there for a little bit and then they leave.
Canada?
I think it was Canada.
Was it on an island they had to fly a plane to, and it was Dr. Jeff Meldrum?
Yes.
Yeah, and they stuck the nails in the board and left it outside, and they ended up getting the blood on
hair.
Yeah. And I think they found, and Josh Gates has also brought back Yeti hair from I want to say it's the Himalayas.
Maybe. He brought back Bigfoot. Foot.
Yeah, and I think most of what they find is not quite human, not quite ape, is what the DNA is coming up as.
Right. Well, there's a female scientist that sat there and said she was given a vial with blood in it. Okay. Mm-hmm. And she tested the blood, and come to find out it's part ape, part human.
Okay.
And that it's a female.
Okay. Wow.
But
I haven't heard of this.
They wouldn't let her write her thesis on it.
Okay, here's I'm going to throw this out at you, okay? Actually, I kind of need to take a short break myself real quick if we can manage that somehow. Yeah. And it will be very short, and then we can go into my theory of what's possibly going on, which is a whole other ball game, man.
Okay.
But, can we do that real quick?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. All right, I'm going to take a short break.
Okay, no problem.
All right, thanks.
All right. So from what he's saying here is that he has been encountering and talking and basically communicating with Bigfoot. So I'm going to play a couple of his videos that he has sent me, and I'm going to get those up on the screen for you. And it's quite interesting on how you can see him out there, hear him out there just talking and communicating. But you got to you got to listen, because you're going to hear what somewhat sounds like something communicating back to him. So I'm just going to pull up the file here. I got a screen open to run the show. Okay. So these here are the tapes. Well, not the tape, but like the video that he sent me. All right, we're just gonna pull these up, and I'll let you listen to it, and let me know what you think. You can write in the comments below, and let me know what you think you hear.
All right, I'm ready when you are.
All right. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to pull up one of the videos that you sent me.
Sure.
And maybe you can describe what's going on as we listen. Okay.
I don't know how much I could. Or is it on now?
Yeah, so I'm loading it up right now.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah. So this is a video that you sent me.
Okay. I'm working off a laptop speaker, so bear with me.
Okay. So do you remember this video?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Ooh, that's not the one I sent you. Is that the one I sent you?
This is not. Yeah, this is one of the first ones you sent me.
Oh, that's the first one. Yeah, yeah. Okay, you go ahead. Go ahead. So I'm sorry. It's difficult. This one doesn't have as good a sound. That's all I was thinking. My bad. Go ahead though.
Oh, okay. So I'm just gonna play a brief clip of it.
Okay.
And you can just explain what's going on as we play through it.
Sure. I'm singing, Tom.
So what's happening out here while you're singing? Are you singing to them?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm singing to them. I don't know that there's much happening from them. There's not a ton of stuff that happened in this recording.
Okay.
I think there's maybe a total of, I'd say, I don't know, 15 to 20 things they did during that recording. And then the other recording I sent you, that was the two recordings, the first of the better recordings. It would be the first family is what it says. It's got stuff every minute and a half. It's just continuous.
Now, is that the one you just sent me?
No, that would be. Let's see. I could resend it to you if you want me to, but it's.
I know the last one you sent me had the timestamps.
Part 3. Yeah, it'd be part 3. Yes, part 3.
Part 3. Okay. Now, did they do anything here?
I can't even hear it from here. That's what I was saying.
So you told them to make some noise. You're telling them to make some noise for you.
Okay.
Do they respond back, or?
I can't hear it to tell if they're even responding right now, but they respond back to me depending on how they feel. I'd say anywhere from 40 to 70% of the time.
Really?
Yes. I mean, as you'll hear on the other one, but yeah, it's pretty insane what they do.
Okay.
And I don't consider it a response unless it happens usually within 30, 45 seconds the most.
So is it like a wood knock, or is it like a chatter?
It's wood knocks or things thrown at me most of the time. You can hear me if you can pull up part 3. If you can pull up part 3 of the Ghosts of the Southern Appalachian Mountains.
Yep, I will pull that up right now.
That one, that's probably the best recording for the interview because it has so much going on, and I should be able to hear it better. I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
on a weak computer and I don't have a powered speaker to work with. I would have brought one over.
All right. So I'm gonna bring it up. You have a timestamp here. The first timestamp that you have is of 5 minutes and 19 seconds.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna bring that up as
All
we
right.
do it.
I want to pull it up too.
Okay.
You can still see me. Can you still see me? Right.
Yep.
And that way I can follow you better. Oh wait, I messed up here. Hang on just a second.
I'm just
Sorry
gonna
about
wind
that.
it to the
I have it bookmarked. All right. Here we go.
So we're at 5 minutes 19 seconds.
Yes, sir. Still waiting on YouTube to download all its 5 minutes and 19 seconds.
So
Yeah,
what are you looking at?
that's when it started getting rolling. That's when I heard the movement. Actually, this recording was at I think I started around 1 a.m. in the morning, and I'd already been there for 3 or 4 hours. But I'd already been talking to them for a while, and they go through their attention span is kind of like a human's. It's roughly 30, 45 minutes, I think. And so what they'll do is they'll kind of fade out after a while, after that 30, 45 minutes hits. And then I can start getting them going again. Maybe 15, 20 minutes later, they'll start talking to me again, and we'll go for another 35, 40 minutes or more. On this, we're actually going for over an hour, talking to back and forth, I guess. But yeah, at 5:19, you just start hearing a little movement in the background. And certainly I always tell people that, you need a good stereo or good earphones or something to hear this. And there's go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's you. That's you talking in the video.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's one of those tree snaps I was talking about. You see that picture right there. That tree right there is at least 3.5 to 4 feet across. Going either way. It's that thick, 3.5 feet thick. That is. I'm sorry. This was another massive tree. This tree was at least 4 feet across, going either way. At the base of the trunk. It flipped back to the other picture, but it'll go back again, and show the base of the other tree. But that's two separate trees right there that you just saw pictures of. Yeah, that's pretty amazing right there. That's probably 10 to 12 feet up right there too, which is something I'm struggling with. But that's a very snap.
So is it like a tear, or is it a rip, or is it like it's snapping it right off?
No, it's snapped. It's completely snapped off.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a close up, and you can see how the wood's still kind of fresh.
Yeah.
We don't have tornadoes. I mean, the trees around it are intact. There's going to be another picture on there that comes up that shows trees, broken and snapped over in different directions. One at the base of the other. So we didn't have any high winds this summer or anything like that. And I have heard the trees pushed over in the dead of calm, so they're just as likely to fall over then as they are during a storm. Now that we've had snow and stuff like that, I would expect to go back in the spring and see some tree damage, but otherwise, we just haven't had it up until after the end of summer. We didn't have any high wind storms at all.
So how big do you think these Bigfoot, Sasquatch, how big do you think they are? I mean,
I think this family could be up to 9 or 10 feet tall. I'm guessing. I'm totally theorizing based on the power that they have and their ability to do stuff like this. Is just insane. Right. I mean, this isn't even in the beginning. You keep going. There's just, the pictures are crazy. I'm walking around looking up there like, oh my God, is this even a smart thing to be walking around up here? They were actually throwing acorns at me while I was taking those pictures.
Really?
Yeah, acorns were being thrown at me. They would hit it. They were landing at my feet, and I kept looking up for the tree that was causing them to fall, and I couldn't find it. And I was just like, this is not making any sense. There's plenty of oak trees around, but there weren't any right above me. There's actually a large clearing. You can see there's a big mess right here. There's actually a large clearing up there where they've snapped all the trees out, and it's where they went crazy. And it might have been that night that I was up there. I don't know. Or maybe they already did that with somebody else, but
Now, this isn't what you would call a bed, would it?
No,
Or-
this is just where they wrecked. Pardon my French, where they wreck shit.
So
That's
now
just,
in the video, you're whistling.
yes,
So
sir.
what are you doing?
I'm just trying to get it's just if they don't talk to me for a minute, it'd be me just trying to get their attention. There's 3 steps to this. There's observation, there's provocation. Now, provocation, when I say provocation, we're not talking about being rude and anything like that. It's a
Like
playful.
provoking?
What's that?
Like you're trying to provoke?
Well, provocation, anything can be provocation. If I were to say hello to you, then I'd be trying to provoke a response for you to say hello back to me, more or less. You get what I'm saying? So that kind of provocation. So there's observation, so you can sit and observe and listen. And then there's provocation, where you can start to reach out and attempt communication, which is the 3rd step. So,
Okay.
and sometimes you're just provoking until you get communication, which is what I've had to do with another family recently. But that's just the way it works. But again, the provocation is all mild. I don't try to irritate them too badly or anything like that. It's all playful. It's not, it's never yelling or being rude or challenging them or, running up in their territory or blah, blah, blah. I'm just, that could get me killed maybe. I don't know. So I don't think it would, but I don't want to push it. I actually think they take me with a grain of salt though. Anything I do, I think.
Wouldn't this, couldn't, now I'm just being like hypothetical, but couldn't this be here just like a bunch of trees that probably killed over and died or something? Or
I'm a
do you,
horticulturist. I mean, I looked at all the trees and tried to figure out if it was disease or if it was just blown over or snapped over. It's either pushed over or blown over. It didn't die of disease. There are some up there. There are plenty up there that, especially the hemlocks that had the Balsamillia delgid, which is a pest that would go into get on the limbs of the tree and literally suck the sap out of it and kill it. And this is just a view of the area, just to give you an idea that we're in the mountains,
I mean, it's a lot of land where if there was a Bigfoot, I mean, that thing can hide.
When I'm out there, I'm at least 2 to 3 miles from any people or civilization, at least, if not more.
I mean, there's nothing out there.
Yeah, it's just a big parking lot. That's all it is. And there's several places like this. You pull over and this is the way they all look out there.
Now, is this is the Appalachians or no?
Yes, sir. It's Appalachian Mountains. Yes, sir. Southern Appalachian Mountains. So
Wow.
we're talking Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina. I don't know if South Carolina. I think they got a little bit foothills. That area, where they all kind of meet.
And now when we was talking about in the beginning of the show, you was talking about different cryptids.
Yes.
Now, are you saying that there's a lot of cryptoids out here in these Appalachians?
According to what I've heard from reliable sources, and I've already experienced what I believe is 2 of them. I can tell the brief story, and I actually had a witness to it, my ex-girlfriend. I don't want to go too far into the story, but at about 4 o'clock, go ahead. So I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. About 4 o'clock in the morning, one night, this was probably 12 years ago, an ex-girlfriend of mine and I laid down in my bed. My home, I'm already living in a haunted home. So, and she had always said that I was full of crap. She's kind of a tough Italian Native American woman mixture. And she just always said, oh, he's full of crap. He's full of crap. He's full of crap. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And we laid down, and 15 minutes later, at 4:15, I had to jump up because it's what sounded like a small toddler had run across my kitchen floor from my bedroom and run about, I don't know how long my kitchen floor is, maybe 15 to 20 feet. And then I had a box of plastic grocery bags sitting right beside the refrigerator, and whatever it was ran across, jumped in that box of plastic grocery bags, and it was gone. And I got up immediately, and I mean, you're a man of the house. You are looking, where is that friggin' raccoon? I got to get that sucker out of here. I'll figure out how to do it later. I got to find it first, and nothing. And it was on 2 feet. And she and I, to this day, agree. We're still friends. And we agree to this day that it sounded like a small toddler running across the floor,
Really?
and it was gone. It was gone. That was the most physical experience I'd ever had in my home.
Would you
And
call that like a
like I
ghost?
said earlier, I'm gonna resort back to, instead of talking about the ones here, I'm gonna resort back to the Irish fairy, Scottish, Iceland. They have all their little people.
The
Uh,
little people, yes.
yeah, and I'll
But
just
the little people, Indians refer to them as little people as well. They say that there's little people of the forest. Some refer to them as fairies.
So what I'm going to tell you, and I say this with all due respect to you, because I know you're a great guy and everything. I'll let you talk to one of the local Native Americans about that. I'm not, as a white man, they don't really want me talking about it publicly too much,
Yeah,
and plus it would take some away from the Sasquatch,
yeah.
stories.
Well,
But
see, because the thing is, I was speaking with a Native American who was telling me about that. The native, I'm not the native, the little people of the forest. That's what they call it.
Mhm.
And it kind of entwined with Bigfoot because she was
It does.
saying that
It
the
does.
little, yeah, they were saying the little people of the forest protect the forest.
Mhm.
Now, they also said Bigfoot protects the forest.
Mhm.
So it kind of like they coexist.
Yes,
If I can say that right.
I do. I have. Uh, it's not public. I have a recording with a voice on it that's not Sasquatch and it's not human, and it sounds like an owl. I didn't hear it at the time. That's part of the problem, is I didn't hear it at all, and it's more than clear.
Yeah.
And it sounds like an owl, and then it kind of trails off and goes ooh, 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 and then it starts going into almost a human voice, and then it stops. And at the time that I recorded that voice, I was actually making a tobacco offering in honor of what we're talking about, because they are there, and I have to respect them when I go out in the forest. I have to respect all living things out there, whether I'm aware of them or not.
So
Um,
speaking of offerings, um, they say that you can offer Bigfoot an apple, and
oh,
in return, he'll offer
Honeycrisp. I highly recommend Honeycrisp apples if you're gonna feed a Bigfoot.
apples. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. And they're very picky. I've heard they like peanut butter. I haven't tried peanut butter yet because it's if I stick it on the gifting tree, I just know a raccoon or something's going to get, come and get it before they do. But
Well, no, I mean, if they're watching you and you stick that peanut butter, whatever cracker or peanut
yeah,
butter on apple, if you stick it out there and then you leave, see, the best thing to do is people say when you do that, you want to put a camera out there. But then there's some people say Bigfoot knows what a camera is.
No, I did it one night and I got a picture at 4:12 a.m. right out behind my bedroom window when I knew he was back there, but it didn't catch him in it. It's the picture of the land and the big X behind my bedroom. But yeah, it's something in my heart's like, don't do that. Just don't even worry about it. I have big plans. I'd like to start a wildlife sanctuary one day. And I think when I do that, I'll get all the chances. I want them to give me permission. I don't want to flash a camera in Bigfoot's face at night. And I know a trail camera doesn't do that, but it does put out that beam of light, and they know what you're doing. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
They're privy. Every time we pull out screens in an area that they're at, they'll start like throwing stuff or making noise or whatever, because they know, they're like, I'll pull that crap out. When I at home, I've had 4 times I pulled out my little crappy flip phone to text somebody. This is what I use because I don't like having a lot of light.
Okay.
And so when I'm in the dark, I like to be in the dark because I don't want my vision affected by light either. But I've pulled that out to text people back before that had texted me, and on 4 different occasions near my home, something was thrown at me while I was doing that. It was like a little bitty stick or something. It wasn't anything. It was just saying, "Hey, put that crap up," or whatever. We don't want to see that shit,
What's the biggest thing you have thrown at you?
Oh wow, we've heard some large stuff hit the ground, right? But you almost never see it. It's weird. Probably just chunks of something. I can't say what it was, but it was chunky. I remember one night where I was up at the place that I have on the video, and I was talking to the Sasquatches, and then a vehicle pulled in and pulled close to me, and I didn't have anything to do. I didn't know who they were or anything. I had to stop talking, which is what I always do. And a lot of times, once I stop talking to them, if somebody pulls in and I stop talking to them, they'll do stuff, and I'll whistle at them every now and then just to remind them that, you know, hey, you still got my attention. I'm just waiting on these people to leave. And they're intelligent. They figure the patterns out. They figure things out.
Yeah.
But they also don't care sometimes, so they just do what they want. But I certainly can't control them, and I don't try to. But anyway, this vehicle pulled in, and it was a younger, maybe in their early 20s or something. I think they were drinking. And they were kind of quiet, but they talked and carried on a little bit, and then they left. And when they were pulling out, they skidded out and tried to, I don't know, do almost not a donut, but, you know, where you just skid and fishtail, sorry.
Yeah.
And they ended up going over into the ditch and running into the embankment across the road where these Sasquatches are. And as soon as they did that, I was like, oh shit, they're not, I'm sorry, man. I don't mean to curse on you. I don't encourage young people. Sorry. I don't mean to do that. I just said, oh snap. And, you know, something's getting ready to happen. As soon as they drove off, there was one other car in the parking lot, and they had been sitting there for so long that I just gave up worrying about them. So I literally hollered up there and said, they were not with me. I had nothing to do with that. And I swear something massive came flying out of the forest and hit the tree at the front of the parking lot over 100 yards away, and then hit the ground somewhere down below. And we see stuff go flying over us all the time, but nothing's hit, you know, nothing's hit anybody or anything like that. One night, and I have witnesses to this story for sure. One night it was myself and about 4 other friends up there, and the 2 of the girls who were in their 20s that were up there with us. They were laughing and cutting up and giggling and everything. And it had been raining, and typically Sasquatches are like gorillas, in which gorillas, when it rains, they tend to kind of just sit still and not really move and kind of get quiet. And they were cutting up, being loud, and the Sasquatch has been quiet. And all of a sudden, a little rock lands right in the middle of our little semicircle when we were talking. It was like saying, shut up. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would love to see a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot. But then on the other hand, I don't know if I'd want to. Just for the fact of it could be I am trespassing on their territory, and they don't like that. You know, you get too close to the kid, you get too close to the kid, the alpha is gonna let you know. And I don't know if I want him to let me know.
Well, here's the thing with that. You have to develop the bond with them from a distance first, and they develop trust with you. So if they see that I'm up there and I'm not shining flashlights on them all the time, I'm not looking at devices all the time. I do use the recorder, but the recorder, you know, I can set that aside. I play with it a little bit. The light comes on, it goes off, and I don't touch it again for 30 minutes, 3 hours, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
But once they see, you know, that your patterns consist of being someone who doesn't use a lot of light and is not a threat to them in that way, then they start building trust with you, and they start treating you differently. And that's what I'm saying. There's a human side going on here that's really, really captivating. And from some stories I've heard, they will let you see their young ones. And at that point, when they do, then you know that you've built trust with them. Just before that area was closed off for the winter due to conditions, I actually think I might have had a baby running around me one night that I couldn't see, because something kept running around me and running up to me, and it was moving a lot faster than the regular Sasquatches usually move.
Really?
Much smaller. And I'm not saying it was at all. For all I know, it was a coyote. But I couldn't make out. I would think a child might run around on all fours like that, you know. But I couldn't make out specifically what it was. I don't know what it was, but it came close to me several times as if to check me out, and then it would go away, you know. And a couple of times I had to say, hey, you know, you're getting a little close there.
Well, they do say that the juvenile Sasquatches are more playful and curious than the parents. Like they say you'll never really see the mother.
Yeah. I believe these are male dominated single family units. Whereas a lot of some gorillas, silverbacks, and so on may have multiple partners or whatever. These are single family units, I believe. Which then again, kind of, there are other monkeys and apes that do that, but they're that kind of points to some humanness, that they have some monogamy, and yeah, I agree with you. I think the female stays with the male. So when we're in that area and we're hearing noises from 3 different areas, we already assume there's 4 different Bigfoots there.
Right.
Because the female is always going to be with the male, except for unless it's a adolescent female. I believe they are allowed to roam and do as they please. And anyways, I could keep going with that. That's another story. But I do believe the adolescent females may roam until they find a male too, as well, or male roams into their area.
So what do you think about the story of I don't want to say his name, but it was a guy who was camping and he was by himself, and he loved to go on these outdoor camp trips by himself. He was an older guy. And one night he tucked himself up under his sleeping bag. He had his gun, his shotgun or rifle, you want to call it, and his sleeping bag. And he zipped himself up and he went to sleep. And when he woke up to something big grabbing him and throwing him over the shoulder. And he was walking. As he's in the sleeping bag, he's over the shoulder of something that's big, smells, and he said it smells bad, and it was walking. And he says he got down to a cliff, and he went down to a cliff, and it threw him on the floor. And he ripped the sleeping bag off him, and it was a Bigfoot. Okay, he said it looked like they was inside of some cave. And the Bigfoot is sitting there. The female is standing by the male. And then the I guess it was like a daughter or a son, juvenile, is next to him. And they're just looking at him. And now this is an older guy. This is a story that basically hit every newspaper.
I've heard the first part of the story about it being carried off. You're telling me parts I haven't heard. So
he was carried off and was brought into a cave. So and what happened?
Go ahead.
What happened? Huh?
I was just listening. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what happened was he had what they call snuff. You ever heard of snuff?
Yeah. Oh yeah. My grandmother used to.
Yeah. So he had some snuff in a can, and what he did was the snuff, I guess, would make you like either dizzy or get you kind of high or whatever it would do. And what happened was he offered the male snuff. And the male took the snuff, sat down and smelt it, and he started eating it. And it got him all, and it got the male all messed up. And then he took off. I guess he took off and ran when he seen that the male was like, all messed up. And he said he made it back to civilization. And when he was trying to tell people what happened to him, because he was missing for like 3 or 4 days or whatever.
Yeah.
And they said when he was trying to tell people what happened, everybody looked at him like he's crazy.
Yeah.
But that was the first case, I guess, that was actually put in the paper of a Bigfoot kidnapping.
Yeah. Well, let me remind you of another story. I think it's a 2 or 3 year old boy that disappears in, I believe it's Craven County, North Carolina. And this was a few years back. And he goes missing for 2 or 3 days, I think. And it turns out he was not far from his home. And he's found. And when he's found, he says that a bear took care of him and watched over him and kept him safe.
Okay. Yeah, I heard some.
And there's some people that believe that this bear whistled and called attention to where the child was for the searchers to come and find him at one point.
Was this story on Dave Pilatus?
It might. Well, I'm sure it was. It's just, I just remember the newspaper articles, and that's just in the eastern part of the state. So, and I didn't find, I looked for evidence of a Bigfoot encounter in that county. And I don't think there'd been one since like either 77 or 85 or something like that, which is kind of odd. But yeah, I mean, maybe the family remained hidden that long. If it's possible, I would have to say it's more likely a Bigfoot than it would be a bear. I think
a bear would probably bring you back to where it is and then eat you.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'd be worried about. But that's
Not
why I say Sasquatches. I think Sasquatches can be like humans. I mean, you see how unpredictable humans can be from one human to another. We're crazy.
well. I
We're,
mean, look
we're
at
you
this
know,
little
I'm
girl.
the nicest guy in the world, but if you hurt somebody, not you, but if someone hurts somebody I love, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I
Oh yeah.
flip a switch, and if I have a gun in my hand, I might do something I regret,
Yeah.
or maybe not. But
There was a case of a little girl who was in the woods, and she went missing.
mhm.
And she said, I was playing with the I think she called it like a wolf or something like that, or
Mhm.
something she was calling it. But it was basically the thing took care of it. It was a female. She basically they said it was a female Bigfoot,
Mhm.
and it took care of the little girl as if it was her daughter.
Wow, I haven't heard that story. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
So it basically took care of her as if it was her daughter. They were feeding the girl berries.
Oh
The
wow.
Bigfoot was giving the girl berries to eat.
Mhm. Yeah,
And at nighttime, the Bigfoot would hold the girl as
keep
if the
going.
girl was a baby.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, it does have, like you were saying, human tendencies to,
I
take care of the child. I mean,
I have a bond with these families. One family I'm still working on building it, and that's the third family. But I have a very strong bond with these families, and it brings me to tears sometimes. And it's not it's good tears, but then it's also the tears of understanding how the world looks at something like this.
yeah,
They don't believe in it. They want to kill it, or they want to destroy it. And there's something else we didn't get to, and that's the plight of the agenda of energy companies. The more endangered species we have, and the more endangered species that are found and discovered, the less resources they're going to be able to plunder, and you know
yeah.
less of the environment they're going to be able to destroy. And I know a lot of people want to say jobs this, jobs that, and I'm sorry, but one day, if the way I look at it, if Sasquatch can't survive out there, God forbid a great natural disaster come, and then we can't survive out there.
I mean, look at California. Look in California at all the woods that are getting burnt down.
Well, that's one thing, and it's just if you keep polluting, there's this thing called bioaccumulation. So if you keep putting pollutants in the ground, especially in the grass, particularly in the ground, they keep building up because they never leave. So when we have these oil spills, no matter how much of that oil, these pipelines spill into water sources, that people need to drink. That's why Standing Rock was such a big deal. And I'm not on here to say I'm liberal, or I'm in the middle. I'm not liberal or Republican or anything like that. I'm in the middle. I think everybody's crazy and lost their minds. But the oil spills, when they go into the water, they don't come out. It leaches down into that mud, and it doesn't come out. And no matter how much you clean, it's not going to all come out.
Okay.
And it's called bioaccumulation. And each time it happens, same thing with Roundup. You spray Roundup over and over, and that we were told at one time that Roundup doesn't bioaccumulate in the soil, but now they're finding it in rainwater. It's like, wow. Okay, well, if it doesn't, maybe it doesn't bioaccumulate. It evaporates, and it goes right back into the sky. So everything that we're putting out there is coming right back to us. And to me, my Sasquatch experience was a wake up call that I always knew the environment was more important than just about anything. And this was a big wake up call to me to say, you need to get on that path. You need to start pushing this a little bit. And I need to start walking it myself. This is not, it's 8:00.
Hey, I mean, those are antiques.
Yeah. But so it, it's important to me because I feel like what I do is going to affect how they live. Now I'm realizing, I mean, maybe I should have recognized this before. How I live affects my neighbors.
Oh yeah.
How I live affects the wildlife around me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a term for that, and I forget what it is.
It's basically a cause and effect.
Yeah, that's one way you could look at it, but it has to do with the domino effect or something. It's just like
which you do have an effect on everything around you.
There you go, the butterfly effect. That's what that's the term I'm looking for. Yeah. Thank you for helping me. But yeah, that everything we do has an impact on something else. It just does. It doesn't necessarily have to be some kind of magical multidimensional impact or anything like that. It can be very simple as just like saying, look, if you put too much crap in the soil, we're never going to get it out.
Right.
The earth can't digest plastic or styrofoam. It just can't do it. It's still there. And no matter how much you put it out of sight, it's still going to be there. And I don't want to go too far into that, but what I was getting to is that we had come to a point where I wanted to bring this up, but I think it's very likely that one of the reasons that Sasquatch is not classified right now is because energy companies are playing a role in this somehow. This is a theory, and I'm not saying all energy companies are bad. I'm not saying everybody that works for energy companies are bad or blah, 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 blah. But I will say this. I found a unique pattern amongst some of the critics that I'm finding on social media. And it's that some of the worst critics work for energy companies. And that's just very strange to me. Yeah. And I mean, without calling out specific names and stuff like that, I couldn't sit here and prove it to you. So we'll call this a theory. Okay. But that's from my own research. When I see someone who's highly critical of me without even looking at my evidence, I might go straight to their social media page and see what they do for a living. Because I'm curious, I'm curious why I'm being attacked when even when I'm presenting evidence is just evidence. It's not, it's my experience. I'm sharing it just like with that video that I sent you. All I'm doing is sharing an experience. I don't care if anybody believes me or not. It's the people that you don't even have to believe it to accept it as an experience. You could just observe it, and like I was saying, be 50-50 and say, well, yeah, he's hearing all this stuff and this thing's happening, but it doesn't mean it's a Bigfoot, but it sure is interesting. That's okay with me. But anyways, pushing back to what I was talking about, I'm concerned that energy companies, want to keep Sasquatch unclassified, and therefore it will allow them to frack, to mine, to do whatever they want, wherever they want, not have any issues. And Sasquatch,
fracking was a big thing in the political field.
Yes, all of it is. I mean, it's all a big deal. We've got to turn. I don't want to say we got to go green, but we got to do something. This is getting ridiculous. We're polluting the water we drink. We're polluting the air we breathe. We know it. We're polluting the ground that we grow vegetables out of, and then the animals and stuff, eat from.
When you flash that green paper, that's all it is. When you flash that green bill, that speaks louder than words or even evidence.
Yeah. What did the Bible say? Love of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. But I mean, it seems like you've been, involved with this for a long time. I mean,
my head, it's been there. I guess it was just waiting for it to explode and happen, Yeah. And, but basically, I've worked with this first family on the video. And each time they let me know they're there. Not every time I show up there, I'm saying, but with each family, they always let me know they're there first. The video I sent you, the second video along with the part 4, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was the second family that I discovered. And that was just me going, I think I told you, I was just going to look for spirit voices because I was bored, pulled over to a good place on the side of a nice scenic area and thought, man, this looks like a good place to get spirit voices. And I'm trying to get spirit voices. You can talk to me. I'm seeing orbs and feeling it. And, it's hard to get that. It's hard to get an EVP. That's one of the hardest things to do in the paranormal field.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of EVPs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have to prove first that the place is literally haunted.
Yes.
So we don't just go in there and say, okay, the place is haunted.
No. Yeah.
We literally have to have facts.
Yes.
And with those facts, we can work off of, okay, we have that. What are we going to do next?
Yes.
So like in the Bigfoot field, you can say, okay, we have a footprint. It's aiming south. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's where we're going to start going south, see where they're at.
Or you're going to backtrack, or you're going to go north. See where it came from, depending on what you want to do.
Correct. But a lot of times they said Bigfoot's afraid of water. Is that true?
No. No, I hear them splashing in I got a creek. I've got a recording, and you can hear them splashing in the creek. They come across the creek to talk to me. I've heard that Bigfoot's good swimmers. I can't say that for a fact or anything like that.
Really?
But yeah, but I will say that gorillas don't like water. They're not natural swimmers, and they sit still when it rains, and they won't move. And typically, they don't move until after the shower stops.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and I've noticed that Sasquatches do that a lot too, with the rain in particular.
So they
But
don't build like shelter or anything?
what's that?
They don't
Oh no,
build.
they'll build nests. They'll build nests or some kind of little shelter. I don't want to speak for. I can only speak for the ones in my area. I haven't investigated other areas to know exactly. I've just seen TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've definitely found nests. What I know with gorillas is that they can move from one nest. They can build a nest a night if they want to. They can sleep on the ground. They don't care. They're just whatever. The nest I found was right next to the road. I mean, right
Really?
next to the road. Yeah, it was not far at all. I was really surprised, and it's on the video. It's
Yeah.
below the tree teepee there.
Yeah.
But and it is what it is. I actually didn't. I wanted to say I didn't find it. My friend did. But he had walked over there with me and said, "Hey, that's a nest right there." And I'm like, "What?" Like, and he wasn't even a Bigfooter. He's just like, it just looks like a nest to me. And I looked at it, and it's like, well, those are hemlock branches with branches from another tree laid over top of them as if to hold them down and create kind of a circular area and kind of a place where rain would, be shielded off of it. The hemlock's evergreen.
See, what I think, well, my honest opinion is when it comes to Bigfoot, I feel that there are some sort of ancestors to us. So basically, where we evolved from an ape, okay? We evolved from an ape, we became bipedal, okay? Upright walking humanoids, okay? And then from there, we started evolving more into what we are today. So now you have the Neanderthal. Some people say Bigfoot is a Neanderthal, okay? And then we have, well, before the Neanderthal, we had what they call the Gigantopithecus.
Yes.
Okay, that's the biggest upright walking ape known to man. Okay, so somewhere in between the Neanderthal and the Gigantopithecus, there was a time slip. Not a time slip, but like a time freeze. Okay, where I don't know what happened, but these things still survived, even though they evolved.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So humans came, Neanderthal, then the caveman and all them, and then us. But then again, the evolution of that changed from the Gigantopithecus to Neanderthal. For some reason, that change stopped, and these things were still able to live.
Okay. Yeah. Now, well, like if you look at I'm going to tell you, and this is another theory, but it holds a little water among the Sasquatch community. If you look at gorilla, you've got like 4 different species of gorilla. I think at 4 to 8. That's terrible of me to remember. But they're different species based on adaptations to different environments.
Correct.
So I think that each one of there's possible there could be a Neanderthal out there and a Bigfoot. There's one guy in Canada that had some pretty convincing video. I don't know how real it is. Right? I'm not trying to just look at video and say, well, that's terribly authentic. But it was these blue-eyed creatures that looked like Neanderthals, and they just had really long hair and beards, and they looked like large old trolls. So we were getting into how many cryptids there are. So we may share DNA with several species of creatures that we're unaware of that aren't classified. And they're in it. So when we just start to, open the book on one of these creatures, just on Bigfoot, and then we start realizing, whoa, there's possibly Neanderthals, there's devil monkeys, there's the short people, there's the, excuse me, that's not a disrespectful term at all, by the way. I was referring to an actual cryptid. And there's other forms of cryptids.
I mean, you have the dog man.
Actually, that gets into magic, and that's a long story. But I believe the source to the dogman can be found in the Egyptian studies of the Egyptian god Anubis.
Oh, the god with the alligator face? Is
No,
that
he's the
oh
jack.
no, with the
He's the
dog,
dog faced.
jackal.
Yeah, and they watch over the dead and where are all these dogmen found, but at or Native American burial sites.
Really?
You get what I'm saying? Yeah, look up the Beast of Bray Road. The lady found that there were Native American burial sites all over the place, or there was
Yeah,
one big one there, something like
um,
that.
yeah,
So
she.
they're summoned to protect the dead.
Yep.
Um, Now, I'm not saying that the Native Americans would have made the Egyptian connection themselves. I'm saying that I found as a witch and a worker of magic that's where this lies. Set actually Anubis filleted Set and wore his skin, and they said that's how the leopard got its spots. Set was the kind of the devil-like what you call it? What's the term? Archetype,
Uh-huh.
for that kind of the ideology or mythology. Sorry, and but anyways, so that kind of brings to mind skinwalkers because they're always doing the dog. They're like related to canid dog type stuff. So
Yeah.
you get into talking about this stuff, and I'm starting to see where the magic comes from. I am willing to at some point go and try to interact with one of those dog men, even though that sounds kind of dangerous.
I
But
would say, yeah.
I want to see if there's an Anubis connection. Well, the thing is because what I was getting to with the Bigfoots is that they let me know that each time I run into a new family, they'll give me a knock and let me know they're there without me ever asking or even knowing. The third family I found, I literally pulled over somewhere off the side of a scenic highway just to get out and pee. And before my foot hit the ground, I heard a loud knock, and my car was still running, the lights were still on and everything.
Really?
And so I think I've been marked after I had that encounter where I had the bluff charge for 45 minutes. That can sound crazy as you want, but whatever. I feel like I was psychically marked by them or something. And so they kind of, I don't know if they see me sense me as another one of them or something. And they tend to want, if I come there, they might knock as a territorial thing,
Yeah.
We don't usually do that with humans, occasionally, but not all the time. Or maybe they want to make connection. My other theory with that encounter, that first major encounter I had, was that it wanted to make contact, but it wanted to establish dominance first.
An alpha.
Yeah. So maybe it was just, or it could have been a juvenile practicing.
Okay.
Even a juvenile 6 foot, 300 pounds, that's going to be all muscle. That's scary.
Yeah. They said that if you shot a Bigfoot,
they'll kill you. They'll come back and kill you.
They would. But they said if you shot a Bigfoot, the muscle density and the bone density, that the bullet wouldn't even penetrate because of that density of the muscle.
Yeah, I would say you probably have to use a high-powered rifle. Not that I am encouraging that at all.
Right. No, I'm going to encourage anything.
Unless you're protecting your life or somebody you love, for sure. That's it.
Yeah. But they said that there was one incident where a hunter was in the woods and he was up in a tree. Mm-hmm. You know those little seats they got up in the tree when you hunt?
Yes.
So he was sitting in the tree in his
deer stand.
Huh?
Deer stand, yeah.
A deer stand, yes, that's what it is. And he was there, and he said he was just sitting there, and as he was sitting there, it was probably about 4 hours, 5 hours. It was real early in the morning. And all of a sudden, he heard this deer just high head out of there, into this open field, into his clear sight. So he said, okay, this deer just ran clear into my sight. I'm going to shoot it. When he put that rifle to his face, he said that deer flew out of there. Okay. But before that deer took off, he said he heard a yell, a deep, hollering yell.
Was this down in Texas or Louisiana or somewhere?
I think it was Louisiana.
Yeah, I've heard these. Yeah, I believe so.
And that deer took off. And when that deer took off, he said something flew through those trees out into the open. And he can clearly see. He said it didn't go all the way out in the open. He said it stayed towards the border of where the trees are.
Yeah, the tree line.
Yeah, the tree line. And he said this thing had to have been at least 11 feet tall.
Wow.
and it was standing upright and it was
Yeah.
chasing the deer. But he said that when he had his eyes locked on it with the gun, that he said it must have seen him because it suddenly stopped
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it hid behind a tree.
Hmm.
But the whole time he was sitting there watching it, he's like, I could have shot this thing and
Yeah.
killed it. But then again, he said he remembered back when his uncles used to tell him stories about Bigfoot. If you ever see a Bigfoot, do not shoot it because your gun will not penetrate it.
Well, it's not only that. They, from what I understand, and I feel if they are as sentient as they are and even have all this empathy and so on, they're probably just as likely to take revenge on someone that does something to them like that.
Yeah.
Because that's the natural human. I'm saying they're human type. You know, they're like humans, and humans tend to want to take revenge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's whether we do it legally or illegally. It's not that I've ever done that illegally at all or legally, but the natural instinct is to want to take revenge, and they may not have that reason to stop themselves and say, well, maybe that's not such a good idea. I don't want to get the family caught or something like that. They may just say, oh, well, that guy, he's dead.
Yeah. And that's why they say a lot of times that if you see it, kill it, because they consider it a wild animal.
Yeah,
that's what a lot of people consider is just a wild animal. If you run into it, kill it.
It's a wild animal, and it's man, is what I feel. I feel in my heart. I can't say that for sure. That's not a scientific statement. I feel that it's a wild animal and it's part of human.
Yeah. I don't think I'd want to try to match up. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I don't either. I always play I pick on them and joke with them. I'll whoop and I'll holler, because once you've established that comfort with them and they don't feel like you're a threat, then you can do whatever you want. I don't throw stuff at them. I've seen a lady came up there one night and she had her children come. She was probably in her 60s, and she had her children come, and then she had her grandchildren. Her children brought her grandchildren up there. Okay. And the grandchildren, they had parked in my spot where I usually go over there and talk to the creature, one of them. And so I was just kind of watching and waiting for them to leave. I noticed they were Native Americans, which means they probably knew the stories or whatnot. And sure enough, those kids were throwing rocks at where that creature sits, and it was throwing acorns back at them. Not big rocks. They were just throwing little gravel rocks, and it was throwing acorns back at them. And this went on for 30 minutes or so. And finally, one of the cars left, and the older lady still stayed there with one of her grandchildren. And I went over and talked to her, and she said, oh, yeah, I've known about these for 2 or 3 years now. And this is just a couple of months after my major encounter up there. And she's like, oh, yeah, I've known about them. The kids, yeah, like there's no big deal, and it just varies amongst people. And I think Sasquatch gives what you give him or her. If you go out there with a lot of fear and you want to kill it and you want to hunt it and blah, 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 then you're probably going to get that back.
Yeah.
But if you go out there with a good intention in your heart, and I'm not telling everybody to just walk out in the woods where they know Sasquatches are, because if you go out there to a 3-toed Sasquatch, which might be inbred, you might end up dead. So be careful.
I heard of the 3-toed ones. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm dealing with what I believe are 5-toed, highly intelligent creatures, and I'm very careful. I do a lot of my work from a distance before I get close. I have, and when I go back to that place, I will again. I get within 20 or 30 feet of them, or I go and sit at the base of the ridge. I'm really out in the road at that point, so I just have to keep running back across the road every time traffic comes up. It's way out in the country, so it doesn't matter. But I can go sit at the base of that ridge, and they will crash, 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 crash. I can hear them come right down to me, and they'll get about 30 feet above me or so, or maybe a little less, and then they'll stop, and it gets dead quiet. And then I can sit there and sing to them, tell them stories, whatever. And then I'll ask you, are you there? And then they'll throw a little something will hit the ground near me, or they'll snap something. I'll say, okay, ski, thank you. That's Cherokee for thank you.
Yeah.
Something like that. And they'll sit and listen to me. When I sing and when I just continuously talk, if I start talking about a concept about love, if I start trying to explain the days of the week to them, months, and everything's a starting point. I don't expect them to understand everything I'm saying or anything I'm saying. But a gorilla, what was it? Coco, the gorilla that had a friendship with Robin Williams that passed away recently, had a vocabulary, I think, of up to 2,000 English words, and she could sign.
Really?
Yeah, so that's beyond what I can do. and it's believed she had an IQ of 75 to 100. Okay. And the average man's what, like 100, 110, maybe 120,
Yeah.
120, something like that. So that's not far off. We can have bonds, we can have friendships with them, possibly. And at least that's what I'm finding in my own life. So I talk to them like they understand me, because I know if I keep doing that and if they stick with me, one day they are going to understand me. And I think I have taught them certain words like car and light. Like there's a car coming, because I got to say that every time I run back across the highway, duck and hide or whatever. And I'll say I'm going to turn on my flashlight because I got to make sure there's no other wild animals around me or something like that.
Yeah.
And they don't react too badly when I do that. They tend to say, and I'll say, okay, I'm all done. They're used to my patterns. They learn your patterns.
Right.
So everybody has patterns. That's just the way we are. We're pattern creatures of habit. That's the term. I'm sorry. So they learn all that. And the more they learn about you, the more comfortable they get with you. And I'm figuring out that the ones that were around my house might have been there a lot longer than before I realized. They might have actually staked out the area. And I also found out today, I told you before the interview, I have they're near the house. They're in the woods near the house. I went to talk to my neighbor today because some of the noises are getting so loud and so on that I want to make sure that my closest neighbor could possibly hear the things they do. All the noises the fourth family, this new family, makes are on an embankment close to my house, but it's where all the sounds I would just hear sitting in a certain spot from my house, because there's also a creek on the property which drowns out a lot of noise. So you actually have to walk to the back corner of the house to be able to hear things and record things, very well. At that point, you can hear bipedal movement, chatter, snaps, knocks, whoops all night long. It's just all night long. It's just like crazy. But anyway, I forgot where I was going with this.
If you look at it, if you look at it, they said, do not consistently feed these animals. They call them animals. They said, do not consistently feed these animals, because if you do, then they're going to expect you to consistently feed these animals.
I have a suggestion to that. Leave them out treats and leave them away from the house. Don't pile out big bunches of food. I'll leave 11 apples sometimes. And the other night I left 11 apples. I came back and 6 of them were gone and completely unaccounted for. There was nothing there. And 5 of them were still sitting there. And, we could debate what ran the apple, took the apples and ran off, but any other animal is really going to leave some kind of sign there, when 6 apples are missing.
I was going to say, did you see like any prints or anything? Or
no, they don't. The ground's all flattened out and it's all covered with leaves. So that print that I sent you that I found, that was just lucky. I had to pull the leaves out of that, to find that one. I'll leave so many apples out, and they will always leave those apples there. And the first time I left apples out for them, they brought one back to my house and put it between my stairway and the corner of my home, on the back corner of my house. And because I don't know how else that apple got there, it was sitting upright and there were no teeth marks in it or bruises on it or anything. And where I set the apples out is about 60 yards around a rock face, going around the bend, the creek, and then back to my home.
Yeah.
So, and that's the gifting tree. So you want to have an area to do that with, so that's where you would gift them things. But don't leave out a ton of stuff. Just leave out a little bit. You don't want them to get dependent on you. You just want them to know you're the friend, And what happens is, from what I've been told by another researcher said that what they're doing is, when they don't take all the apples, is they're leaving you some.
Really?
Yeah. So that's, what did it do the first time? But it brought me back one of my apples. And even with Daryl, I've given him apples before, and he throws one back at us. It's hilarious because we hear it hit. He throws it, and you hear it, and they're like, "Oh, there goes one of the apples."
Yeah. Because there was a story where this woman always had, she said she always had a Bigfoot in her yard, and she would feed it every night. So every night, let's say 8 o'clock, she can She would put money on it. It'll come and it'll eat the food at 8 o'clock every single night. Now she has farm animals.
That's not my experience, but
Yeah.
they'll let it sit for days. They'll let it sit for a couple of days before they touch it sometimes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. She said every night it'll come around 8 o'clock and it'll eat the food. And she had farm animals. Then the neighbors would be like, do not feed this thing, because they knew about it. And they said, do not feed this thing, because if you stop feeding it, it's going to come after you.
Yeah.
So one night, her husband got sick. They had to rush him to the hospital. She was in the hospital with her husband for 3 days. She said when she came back home, all her livestock was dead.
Wow. That's crazy.
And they said the reason why your livestock is dead is because of the Bigfoot. The Bigfoot came and killed your livestock because you stopped feeding it.
On another hand, I've been best I can communicating to the Sasquatches in my area. There's farms in the area, and of course there's lots of cats and dogs too, and it's on the outskirts of a residential area, but it connects to woods and 3 farms. And I've been, as much as I can, the best way I know how, making sure that they don't harm any human animals. So any animals with a human smell, even the stray ones, I ask them, leave alone. And so far, I've heard them kill 3 possums and 1 deer in one night in 45 minutes is what I think I was hearing. I heard something grunt really loud before it died is what it sounded like. That's the only way I could describe it. But the cats have been coming and going where they're at just fine, no problems. Nobody's missing any animals. I spoke to the farmer and I said, sorry, there's a cat behind me. Speaking of cats, if I spoke to the farmer across the road from me and I said, if you have any problems with anything you don't understand, you can come. I just want you to know you can come talk to me. And he already thinks I'm crazy anyways. I've talked about my house being haunted and stuff. But I just said, I just want you to know, if you have any problems with anything, you come talk to me. And I won't say anything about you. I won't judge you, whatever. And he said he hadn't had any problems so far and no issues. And when I talked to the neighbors today, she said she thought she heard a whoop the other night. And after I showed her the print, she started crying. And that's when she said her father just passed away from COVID and he was a big fan of Bigfoot. Oh. So I made a real connection with my closest neighbors tonight. And at least the 2 of us are on the same page that we don't want to hurt anything. And there's no reason that they should feel afraid. Yeah. They have an autistic child who's liable to walk up in the woods and start talking to something like that. And that's fine. I believe these are because I've already interacted with them, because you've already heard the stories too. There's just as many stories of Bigfoot saving children or helping children or people in general as there are of it running off. Or actually, there's probably more stories of it helping people than there is of hurting people.
I'm pretty sure
scaring people off doesn't count. You know what I'm saying? The stories that's kind of in the middle. That's, heck, I'm going to blow myself up, scare somebody off. I don't want them on my property. We need to start thinking of Bigfoot in a more human way, and looking at ourselves and say, well, how would I react in this situation? And just realize it's something like a human that's far more powerful and hairier and just doesn't have may not have as much reason as we do. As far as some of those things go. But then I say that and I think of some of the things that have happened in the U.S. the past year. It's kind of like, well, are we really creatures of reason ourselves,
I mean, honestly, I think if I was to see a Bigfoot, I would run first and then ask questions later. I would not. I don't think I'd be able to stand there and be like, hey, my name is Curtis. And I think I would run first.
So you heard this, ladies and gentlemen, a detective, a cop, that he would run where I stood my ground. Well, I stood my ground. He's going to run.
I mean, it's a different.
I ain't taking you nowhere. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a different story with you're dealing with, you're looking at a human. You know what I'm saying? You say, okay, I can see him. He's me. He's like me. Yeah. I know I can take him down, and that's it.
Yeah. You're looking at Nate. You're looking at the Hulk. Yeah.
The guy's 5'5". He probably weighs 210. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I'm 6'2". I weigh 280.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we kind of level each other out. Okay.
You're training self-defense. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you're walking in the woods, you're not armed. You're just walking in the woods. Even if you are armed, you're walking in the woods.
It's me. You're talking about me right now.
And you see something that is 11 feet tall, 10 feet, 8 feet tall. chest width, about 4 feet wide. Thing look like it weighs about 800 pounds. I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna run.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go. Let's see if I can get it to respond to me.
I'll do. I'd be like,
I'm gonna feel the same fear you feel, but I'm gonna make myself stand there and do it. And that sounds crazy, but again, I've had my experiences. You haven't had these experiences yet.
exactly.
Help you one day. But
see, I would be me. I would be like, you know what? I stepped on your territory. I'm gonna backtrack and I'm gonna go this way because I don't want to be. I know you can run faster than me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just gonna backtrack this way. I'm gonna get off your territory. I'm gonna let you be. That's all the proof I need.
Well, the would be me saying everything you just said to it right there. They can do knocks. Knocks can mean different things. Whoops can mean different things. They understand what it means. So if I'm in my heart saying to that creature, is it okay for me to be here? I don't mean any harm.
Yeah.
Then they're going to be aware of that, and it may just look at me and walk off. Sometimes they don't give two craps about you.
They just watch you walk by, and a lot of times they leave you alone, and you'll never see them, but they'll be right next to you.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true.
So
yeah, they get so quiet sometimes that I won't hear them, and I'll have to piney for a response, and they'll finally respond to me, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're right behind me the whole time." Crap.
How is
I call them ninjas.
I was gonna say, like, how is
ninjas.
100 pounds?
Yeah.
Can walk so stealthily, but you know what people say? They don't walk; they use the trees.
No, they walk. I hear them walk all night long. They bipedal walk. I think if they feel comfortable, they walk. And like I said, that embankment's it's to where it's just all the sounds projected only on my house, really. It's not my neighbors aren't even really getting all the sounds I'm getting at all. So, but yeah, they walk plenty. There's bipedal walking in that video I sent you.
Yeah.
You have, people have to be able to discern it. Sometimes it takes a hunter, discern that, when something's on four legs, it's kind of a step. And then when it's a human, upright or possibly a Sasquatch, it's step, whether it speeds up or slows down, same rhythm. Yeah. It speeds up or slows down, same rhythm.
Wow.
So the ear is important. People, I want to get video. Audio tells you everything you did not hear. Audio plays back everything you did hear and validates what you did hear. Video, sometimes video has audio. If you're going to use video, use make sure it has high definition audio on it.
Yeah.
High definition recorder. I highly recommend Tascam recorders for doing this kind of work. They're tough. They can handle weather. I've got mine snowed on. It still worked just fine,
What's it called?
Tascam, TASCAM.
Okay.
That's the kind of recorders I use. They're if I had one, I'd show it to you. They're kind of bulky. They're about $100. And then they require a memory card, of course, which I think is 32 or 64. And those things will record forever. I mean,
where could the viewers get it?
Just online, just look up Tascam, whether on Amazon or if there were mom and pop electronic stores still today, I'd tell you to go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just any electronics, you could just go online, look up Tascam, order from them. Best high quality recorders I found for no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I have one more question before we wrap it up. What do you think about Bobo?
Bobo? You mean on Finding Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Is he part Bigfoot? Is that what you're asking me? I don't. He might be.
What do you think about him? Do you think he's real? Do you think he's real, or do you think he's for show?
I don't want to criticize anybody. I have a problem with that. I'm actually communicating with one of the cast members of that show just a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the guy that was in charge of that show was the biggest issue, and I'm gonna leave that there. I mean, it's in his last name, but the rest of them, I think the rest of them are just kind of along for the ride and willing to do whatever, to be a part of the show. And I say willing to do whatever. I don't mean compromise their, credibility or anything like that.
The reason I was asking was because the way he hoots and he hollers, he makes the voice calls and stuff. It seems like since that show been out, there's been a lot more people doing it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
and
go ahead. Sorry.
well, I'm just saying, like, because he did that, everybody's doing it now. They'll go out there and they'll just holler all out tonight, hoping that they're gonna get a call back.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy how when you see him do it, you'll hear a call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Oh yeah. So you're wondering if it's fake or not. Yeah.
yeah,
I the feeling I always got from that show is that most of what they were experiencing was real because they actually didn't experience a lot.
uh-huh.
And a lot of times, watching paranormal shows, ghost hunters, when they first came out, they didn't get a whole lot of evidence. And they did at first, and then it kind of, bottomed out a little bit, and then they kind of went off the air for a while. And they're still respectable guys. They just weren't getting a ton of evidence. And so it gets kind of boring after a while. I enjoyed finding Bigfoot as much for the fact they were outdoors as anything. And still to this day, when I'm out talking to the Sasquatches, I'll look up at the sky and say, there's no less majesty in the stars. There's no less majesty on the earth, than there is with these creatures.
Yeah.
And everything else on the earth, it's all beautiful. I never got a fake feeling from that show at all. I think a lot of it was staged as far as setting up the stories, because that's just the way those shows are made.
Right.
But I never got I don't think Bobo would be the person I would consider, which fake is a strong word. Don't let me say that.
Well,
I really like Bobo and Renee, and Cliff didn't seem like a bad guy either. I'll just leave it there.
okay.
And I don't know the other guy. I don't want to say anything. I've heard things outside of the show, and I don't necessarily know that they're true or not, but I do know that show exposed a place in Eastern North Carolina, and caused a lot of problems for, I say problems. It's if I were a Sasquatch, I would consider it a lot of problems for me. Let's just put it that way,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people that I talk to don't like to divulge where these creatures are. There was a video of somebody that said they shot two juveniles. I don't know if you heard about that one.
I might. Was it a guy in Oregon or something? And he was actually on a show about it a long time ago. It's been like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And nobody believed him, and his life just went to shit because of it.
Yep. Yeah. And
that's usually what happens to people who shoot Sasquatches, if they actually do. I don't know if he shot one or not, but either they have revenge taken out on them, or their life just goes to absolute crap after that. That's typically I think that's been a lot of the Native American beliefs. I don't know how strong that is amongst all of them and amongst different tribes and so on, nations. But I've heard those stories. And so
shot
on
two.
On the other hand, I've been having a great relationship with these creatures, and my life has really changed for the better. I lost 15 pounds, gained muscle, got into resistance band training with weights, and gained a lot of muscle. I wasn't sleeping well. I started sleeping better. I got rid of a spirit in my house that was causing me problems. I'll just keep it there. There's a lot more to that story, but I had an attachment, and it was around the time that I had my encounter that I started sleeping again. I was literally going for 2 or 3 nights without any sleep at times.
Wow.
And I'm not on any drugs or anything like that. I'll say I don't have anything against 420, but beyond that, I don't drink or do anything. And so it was very hard for me. And plus I'm trying to work through the summer, run a horticulture business, and then glorified gardener is what I am, landscape gardener. But and then I have this encounter, and I suddenly started sleeping again. I was just like, wow. And abundance started flowing into my life more. It was already flowing, but it's just been more steady and really, it's just flowing. And I can't say that it's because of Sasquatch, but I'm willing to bet some money on it. I'm a little over that.
Things like that,
But I think if I do believe in Sasquatch medicine. And I believe it's very powerful. Again, I don't know if I mentioned since we started the interview, but I'm Reiki level 3 healer, not a Reiki master, just a healer.
Okay.
But I am level 3, and like masters are. But I use that Reiki to communicate, and I have been since before I had my first experience. I would use that Reiki to communicate with whatever was there, spirit, alien, interdimensional, what have you, elemental beings, whatnot, anything.
Yeah.
at the time. And then I think that's played a huge part in this. And I still do use that Reiki. I pray for them every night. I pray and restate a prayer, a blessing, and a little spell for protection over them every night from long distance. And Reiki helps enable me to do that in a really good way. Reiki is a Japanese mode of hands-on healing. It's spelled Reiki for those who want to look it up. But anyway, do you have anything else you wanted to talk about? Or?
Well, no, I was saying, it's basically what you went through is just amazing. I mean, to
Thank you.
be able to deal with this, and
that's Albert Einstein's brother walking in and out behind me. I don't know if people knew he had a brother. Anyway, sorry if you happen to see him. I just had to pick on him. Go ahead.
Wow.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, it was definitely a pleasure getting your stories and hearing what you go through and how you communicate, with the Sasquatch and stuff. I saw your post and I was like, oh, I got to talk to him. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. I think I took a lot of criticism on some of those posts. It's amazing the critics in the world, and I'm learning. Like I said, some may be connected to energy companies, but you've got a lot of narcissistic people that are just getting online and letting it blow because somebody can't reach across through the screen and punch them in the face now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, they don't understand. So if you don't understand something, what do? You shoot it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
or it's impossible to you. It's impossible because it's impossible just to you. And,
right.
And there's one statement I want to make that I think people need to understand. That they say, does if a tree falls in the forest, and there's no one to hear it, does it make a sound? Hell yeah, it makes a damn sound. You don't need to be there to hear it. And there's lots of things in this world that exist. Our new discoveries are based on things that existed without our knowledge or without our belief. Yeah. These things, for them to exist, do not require human belief. So let me just be very clear about that to any skeptics. It doesn't matter. It's okay to be skeptical. It's okay to not believe in it. But just because you don't believe in it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Period.
Right.
Period. I'm just going to leave that there. I think that's just a very important statement that needs to be made. And because a lot of these things become conflicts in families and things like that, because one person doesn't believe the other or whatnot.
Yeah.
We can accept someone's experience for their experience. That's possible. I'm not talking to you. I know I'm preaching the choir with you, but just in general, we can accept someone's experience for their experience. It's real to them. And what I'm experiencing is
real to you.
What's that?
I said it doesn't have to be real to you.
Yes.
But because they believe in what they saw, just respect it.
Exactly. And leave it there until we have more facts,
right.
and it's that simple. Yeah. And in the meantime, I have time for constructive criticism. I don't have time for people calling me fake. I don't have time for people just criticizing me because they're having a bad day or because their presidential candidate didn't win or whatever. And that goes for both sides because I've taken it from both sides.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I don't have the energy for that. And I'll block people right off because I'm not here for that. I'm here for the people that I really would like to help people. Like that picture you just showed me, I could look at pictures and people could send me audio. I could say, it looks like you have something going on, possibly or not. I can never say definitely because I'm not there, but I could say, according to this audio, according to these pictures, I can compare it to mine, say, here's mine. And then you could compare it and say, well, what do you think?
Right.
So I'd like to help people figure things out like that if they have some nearby, and then how to work with them and, whether or not they're dangerous or whatnot. I think, like I said, Sasquatches are just like humans. And if they've had a bad experience with humans, they may be dangerous to humans.
Right.
But, and then also if the humans that are already living on the land have had a bad experience with Sasquatches and maybe they need somebody to come and mediate, that's what I'd like to be able to do. I think I haven't attempted to do those things, but having talked to 4 families now and having one track me to my house at this point and live with me, near to me, and they made sure to make communication with me, let me know they were there every night. I actually have to, I don't know if I said it on here, but I actually have to announce myself when I walk out of the house and when I'm going back in, just like I would in the forest. Diane Fossey had to do that with her gorillas. Jane Goodall had to do that with chimps. You have to call out, and for me, it's a whoop, or just something like that, or whatever. And they'll usually knock within 30 seconds. Sorry, and if I don't do that, they'll knock or something and expect me to call back. And I'm doing that more too. Like friends are coming over, I'll go out and meet my friends and go, letting them know, hey, these are with me. They're fine. Not that they're not going to do anything to anybody. I just want them to feel comfortable.
Uh-huh.
That's my main thing. I want them to feel like if I bring my friends over to have an experience, I want the Sasquatchers to feel comfortable about that too, as well, about the people that they can trust me about who I invite over.
That's good. That's
But anyway,
amazing. That is amazing. Well, it was a lot tonight. I mean,
sorry about that.
No. We learned a lot. A lot that we learned about, and getting it from firsthand, somebody with the firsthand encounter is better than looking online. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I'd be happy to come back on and share more information as I get it, and maybe maybe as I come up with new videos, I could send them to you. And then if you wanted to have me on to talk about it or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
I definitely have to do a new video for the third family and now the fourth family behind the house. And that's going to yield a lot of interesting pictures.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's my first real print. I've seen some other possible prints, but that one I sent you is probably my first real print now, since I've been doing this since August 2nd, 2020. So I'm excited. Right here. Yeah, I'm excited. To me, I think that's a left foot. I took more close up pictures. I sent you that one because it compared it with my shoe perfectly.
Yeah.
But
that's big.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, I'm that's a theory that's a Sasquatch print. I've got Knox whoops, tree structures, and everything else going on all the time. So it's kind of circumstantial evidence type thing. But no, it hasn't been presented in a court of law and been proven. So all the critics that are dying to say that's not real or blah blah blah, I don't care. I mean, that's about as simple as I can put it, But I just also want to say I appreciate the people that actually support the Sasquatch community and support not only the people in the Sasquatch community that are telling their stories. I give people the benefit of the doubt the best I can. I know there's a lady in the group the other day that she posted a picture and it didn't really look like a Sasquatch thing. And she posted some more pictures and it didn't really look like Sasquatch. And I just said, I'm not seeing Sasquatch, but if you really think you have one, maybe go buy yourself a recorder and stick it outside at night and see what you come up with.
Yeah.
Ways of being polite. If someone's being a jerk, there's a reason they're being a jerk.
Right.
And it doesn't have anything to do with the person they're being a jerk to.
Right. I mean, if that's the case, you don't belong in the community if you're going to be a jerk to people.
But, I had a guy the other night who was probably sitting at home in his mom's basement tell me that I was a disgrace to the Sasquatch community because of a little apple experiment that I ran. But people didn't realize I was already getting Knox whoops and tree structures, that all I was doing was putting apples out and then just telling people what happened, and then theorizing as to what happened.
Yeah.
And I got all these arguments. I was just like, wow, I couldn't believe it. But all of them were for men.
To me, it's whatever works.
We're the worst.
You know what I mean? So
we know it all. We know it all. I know.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is our guest, John Littlefoot Martin. You heard him tonight.
Can I plug a wildlife sanctuary real quick?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. If you had anything that you want to know.
This is a shirt from Edith Allen Wildlife Sanctuary. I don't know how well you can see that pretty well.
Oh, 1 second. There you go.
Yeah, it says, hang on. It says, oh dear, 2020.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's a nice hoodie. It's real thick cotton. It's got the pockets up. You can look up Edith Allen Wildlife Sanctuary, and actually any local wildlife sanctuary is a great thing to support if you want to support Bigfoot, since there's no money to give to any kind of Bigfoot organization, or no such organization that takes money that actually can convert it into something helpful for Bigfoot. Supporting local wildlife rehabilitation stations will help support the natural ecosystem and help support the food that Bigfoot would live off of in general. So if you can support your local wildlife rehabilitation, that's a great place to start if you want to support Sasquatch.
Yeah. If you can just leave us, if you can actually just shoot me over text on, the address or
Facebook. Yeah, I'll do that on Facebook.
Website. I'll put it in on here. So when they see the video, they can see underneath it and the description and they can go to it.
Not a problem. And you're going to send me a link to this too, right?
Yeah. So you'll get a link. Everybody will get a link, and you can look on my Facebook page and you'll be able to see the show and stuff. And you can see it on YouTube as well.
Awesome. All
right.
I
Well,
really
John,
appreciate you having me, man. Thank you. Thank
it
you.
was
You're
a
a really
pleasure.
nice guy.
Yeah, definitely. It was a pleasure talking.
You too, brother.
All right. Take care. Thank you very much.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So, everybody, you heard tonight, we spoke with John, and this has tons and tons of experience. So, yeah, I just want to say thank you to John for joining us tonight here on Paranormal Outreach. And for all you people out there at home, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you've been here with us tonight. So thank you again for joining us. Take care, stay safe. And once again, we'll see you next time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And God bless and good night.